What's up, people? These are leftover from Avengers. If you haven't seen Avengers yet, you should, because it's really good. It is 3 hours long, but it's worth it. On the KM scale, I'd give it a on the burger scale of Burger King to Shake Shack, I'd give it a Wendy's Baconator. That's the scale that I use internally to determine everything in life. Burger King burger is the bottom line, the baseline, and the top shelf is Shake Shack. Probably gonna make another video at some point in time about the burger scale. Anyway, I wanna talk about the relapse that happens. And if you don't know kind of about my general whole story, this aspect of my story is a small bit, but if you wanna watch my full story, head up here to check out my full story where I kind of walk from start to finish through everything. Today, I'm talking about why I relapsed. My hope is that you can take away what I didn't see so that you can apply it to whatever situation you're in. I wish that I could have gone back in time and told myself in college what I'm about to talk about today, because it would have helped me so much. Just kind of jump over that relapse. Like, you don't have to relapse back into an eating disorder, back into anorexia. And it's now that I'm kind of sitting on the other side, I can see it so clearly. I can see why all of these pieces kind of fell together and why I ended up relapsing. So we're gonna talk about that. If you like what you see and you like what you experience on this channel, consider subscribing. I've talked about this in the last channel, but you can be a part of the KM fam by subscribing to the channel. Also, I never want what I do to just be done because it's the way you do things. So if you want to see anything from this channel, like whether it's me covering certain topics, just doing something, let me know down in the comments below. My ultimate goal through all this is to help people through eating disorders, because I'm out of it now and a lot of people help me, and I want to help you. All right, that's it. Let's talk about relapsing and eating disorders. The first one's big, all right? The first one is probably like, it's just the main one. I thought, so in this period of time, this period of time is like me in college. So I'd been through anorexia before going through like junior high and high school. And then by the time I got to college, I was actually pretty good. I was at a pretty healthy state. I'll put some pictures up of what I looked like going into college. It was my mom and my dad. And that was actually the day that they sent me off. When I got into college, I was like good to go. I had a healthy relationship with food and everything. Why did I relapse? One of the main reasons I relapsed was because I thought that since I'd been through it before, it couldn't or wouldn't happen again. That idea, the idea that it wouldn't happen again, kind of created this false sense of security where I just like lost intentionality, right? Because I thought that it wouldn't happen again, I didn't approach moving forward after being done with anorexia in like a safe way. I personally wanted just so much to be done with that side of things. I didn't want to think about it, didn't want to talk about it anymore, because I felt like I was good. And I was good, but I treated it like an all or nothing scenario. Because I moved forward with this mentality, I didn't pay attention to what I needed to pay attention to. So I thought that it wouldn't happen again. And that bleeds into number 2, which is losing intentionality with food. I lost being intentional. What does that mean? What does that look like? Like I said in the first one, I kind of just let it all go. Didn't think about it. Basically thought that I could just not have to think about the amount of food that I ate. When instead, I think the healthier version of this would be kind of easing off of, or easing into real life, non-eating disorder life. Maybe meaning like measuring the baseline, so I knew what the baseline would be. Measuring my weight to make sure that I was maintaining weight, not losing weight. And again, I had done this before, but I was approaching this now with the mentality of like, I'm good to go, don't need to think about it anymore. I was dealing with absolutes when it didn't have to be so absolute. I should have just kept track of my weight, kept track of like the amount of food that I was eating to make sure that it was a healthy amount. Number 3, I didn't handle stress in the right way. Now, of course, like going through college, seemingly going through transitions seems to have led to some tense spots with eating disorders in my life. If you look at my whole story, when I went through it the first time, that was going into middle school, that was my dad getting sick, it was a whole lot of stuff going on at one time, and food ended up being how I coped with stress and pressure. I'm gonna try to articulate this as good as I can. I had those things under my belt. Like, I knew how to deal with that kind of pressure. But here I was coming into a whole new scenario, which was college. In my mind, I thought that because I knew how to deal with all of those things, I knew how to deal with college pressure in the right way. And that wasn't true. When I came into college, I went into college for bio pre-med. I ended up switching out for business, which was a good switch for me, at least. Basically coped with stress by running. And so I ran to cope with my stress. And because I started running, that really, really put me in a tough spot for basically relapsing. I should not have handled stress that way. I wanted some way to relieve stress. This was before I started weightlifting. And so I would just like run, 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 and run. So running in itself is not a bad thing, as long as you're keeping track of it. That was the problem. I didn't really keep track of it. I just like ran. I think I ran just about every single day. And I went to college in Indiana, and of course, like Indiana, it gets cold really quick and for a large majority of the year. And so I would like run indoors on the treadmill. I'd do like elliptical stuff. I'd run outside. But I would literally do it every single day. Didn't keep track of it. Didn't think about it. Didn't stop myself in any way. Under moderation would have been a little better. But even then, I did not exercise right, and that started pushing me downhill even more. And this next one's really important. I stopped focusing on me, and I started focusing on a whole lot of other things. Now, here's the thing. Focusing on other things is really important, especially when you're going to college. You know, you want to meet new people, make new friends, all these things. But when I came into college, I had a really good grip, I think, on myself, on like what I need in a healthy way, not in like a selfish way, but what I needed to be healthy with, when I needed alone time, when I wanted time with other people, all these things. Like I had a good grip on what filled me up and what took energy out of me. And when I got to college, slowly during like the first semester, there was this slow transition, this slow exchange of like a good focus on what I needed, and I started taking the focus away from me, and I started putting it onto everything else. This is kind of like losing that intentionality that I talked about earlier, where I just got so focused on friends and on classes, on like extracurricular and running and like indoor soccer, and in the exchange, in all of those exchanges, I simply just forgot to look back and ask myself about me. So I started looking at all of these other things, and when in reality what I needed to do was, yes, look at those things and pay attention to them, put time into them, but also I needed to just stop and take a second to ask myself, hey, how am I doing right now? What do I need? Am I in a healthy place? I simply just didn't take time to stop. I just kept on going, kept on looking the other way. Another reason why I relapsed was because it did not happen overnight. So going to college, I struggled with everything, like the ebb and flow, the up and down from junior high all the way through high school, basically. And so I knew what a relapse was, but I thought that I'd be able to catch it, you know? Like I figured in my mind, like, oh, I'll catch it if it starts to go that way. Because I figured that it would happen pretty quick and that I'd be able to see it. It didn't happen overnight. Because it did not happen overnight, I missed it. Like I missed all these small, subtle things that all added up to turning the curve, the health curve, the other way, and that started to compound on themselves to bring me further and further down. If it would have happened overnight, sure, I would have been able to see it and be like, oh, okay, like, yeah, I'll change it. But it was a bunch of small things that happened over a longer period of time that made it harder to catch. It was not a flat out choice to go into a relapse, to regress. It was a bunch of small things that all added up to that overturn, going downhill again. You know what? I learned through this relapse what it actually means to be honest with myself. Another reason why I went into a relapse was because I simply was not being honest with myself with where I was. I almost wanted to convince myself that I was okay, because I didn't want to go back to anorexia, because I didn't want to go back like so bad. I figured that just telling myself that it was okay, or that everything was going to be okay, was enough. When in fact, if I would have jumped on all those small signs early, I would have been able to catch it and I would not have relapsed. Another thing has to do with food specifically. So, you know, like when you go through, if you're in recovery right now, you know that you eat a lot of food, right? And so I knew that I needed to eat a lot of food, and it's not like I starved myself again, because that would have been a clear sign. Again, this happened slowly, right? And so what typically would happen was I started eating salads a lot, like more and more. So what I would do is I would get this big old plate full of I'd fill it up with spinach, put a ton of vegetables on it because it was healthy, put like a bunch of chicken on it, call it a day. That's what I would eat. And since I was running like an absurd amount, walking from class to class, I hadn't experienced what it meant to be in college yet, at that activity level, you know, living a normal life outside of anorexia, doing like all these extracurriculars, stuff like that. Because of that, I simply wasn't eating enough to keep up with what my body needed. Because I wasn't taking time to stop and ask myself if I was actually eating enough, I was just like, it's a good amount of food. I was being accountable to myself now. I was on my own. Where I was like, oh, that's enough. Didn't question it. Just kept on moving forward. Because I did that, I am also a person of habit. So I ate salads like every single day. Ate a lot of spinach. Simply just didn't eat enough. I still ate like a good amount of food. Like it was a full plate, you know, but it wasn't enough. Didn't work. Another one was being completely honest with other people. Coming from the perspective again that it couldn't happen again, I would talk to people about my story and tell them that, yeah, I have a history of anorexia and it's something that I've overcome. But because I didn't see what was happening in the moment, and talking to them about what was, not accepting with what is happening now, it just furthered that idea in my mind that I don't have it, I don't have the symptoms, I'm not relapsing. And in reality, if I was being completely honest with myself, I needed to be completely honest with other people and saying like, hey, I'm actually really struggling again. I'm actually really struggling now. People that I trusted, of course. And I just need some support. But again, that stemmed from me being completely honest with myself. If I were to summarize why I relapsed, I went back into it. It wasn't a choice, or actually it was an add up, it was an addition of a bunch of small choices. Like I didn't say to myself, oh, I'm gonna go back into anorexia. I didn't tell myself that. There was a bunch of small decisions that added up to that being the result. If I were to summarize that, or the reasons for that, it would be simply because I took my eyes off of it. I took my eyes off of my eating disorder. I took my eyes off of who I was, who I am, and the fact that I just am a certain way that under the right conditions, if I don't keep track of certain things, if I don't just have my eye, even just like put a little bit of energy and intentionality into seeing it, then it will or could happen again. I thought that thinking about it wasn't a good thing. So in my mind, thinking about anorexia was bad. I didn't need to think about it. I didn't need to think about food or weighing myself. When in reality, those things can be healthy. They can be healthy things to help you maintain and even to progress forward. I do those things now. I keep my eye on my overall health because I understand what I need to do to keep myself healthy. There's one thing I can say is that you need to take care of yourself. And I'm someone who struggles with that. Ultimately, now I understand that I need to take care of myself in order to take care of other people. If I understand, like I see it, I feel it, and I know it because I've been through it. Like I understand what it means to be at the bottom of my life, at least, and to see that like, hey, I'm in no position or spot to help other people right now. I gotta focus on getting myself out of this hole. Once you're out of this hole, shooting up to the best spot, the peak of your life, you gotta make sure that you're okay. I hope that you're okay. I hope that you're doing good, for real. I hope you're eating Sour Patch Kids and watching Avengers Endgame and stuff. Are you taking care of yourself right now? Are you living your life to the fullest? Are you hurting in any way? Are you down? Are you doing everything that you can to make sure that you are okay? I think it's important to ask yourself questions a lot. I think it's important to talk to you. I mean, you know you better than anybody. Ask yourself tough questions. Anyway, all right, that's it, people. That's my why. That's why it happened. Hope this video was helpful. If you want to keep up with what I'm doing on my day-to-day, try to keep everybody updated on Instagram just for what's going down with everything in life. So if you want to keep connected, or if you just want to talk, if you want to DM me, my DMs are always open. Shoot me a DM on Instagram. Eat Sour Patch Kids, go watch Avengers Endgame, live life to the fullest, ask yourself some tough questions. There's some vids that I've put out in the past, my story over here, another video over here, and thanks so much for your time. Love you all. I'll see ya in the future. DM me. Don't forget to DM me because I want to talk to you.